Anyway, I went for the job and I got hired. The interview was very skills based. They weren't super concerned about my MBA knowledge. They were looking for, hey, do you have the skill sets to come in here and manage our projects? My PMP told them that story.
Someone to go get a project management certification or an HR certification or cybersecurity certification, it shows excellence in a specific craft, right? It just so happens the project management craft can be applied anywhere.
One, cert training is much faster and much cheaper, Ian, to your point, than a college degree. And there's a lot of companies out there that have benefits that'll pay for it, right? I know Booz Allen, just to give them a shout out, is a great company that's up like 10 grand a year for 5-year employees for education, including certs, right? Because there's a massive immediate return.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the PM-ProShow. We got Tim Dalhouse, Ian Fisher, and Josh Atkinson, the heart and soul of the PM-ProLearn founder group, kind of guys that got that thing going. And what we want to talk about today is the value of certifications and the value of education, traditional education, talking about college degrees. And what sparked this conversation was recently on LinkedIn, saw a little article that was circulated around, and it was by a guy named Rob Sachs, editor of LinkedIn News, and he cited an article in the Wall Street Journal that said about 23% of Harvard alums with MBA degrees from last spring were still job hunting 3 months later. And that was up from 20% in 2023 and 10% in 2022. And so these folks that have traditionally, come out of Harvard with this awesome MBA degree and had, little to no problem finding a job, are finding it harder to find a job. And so that got me thinking about where education and the value of it is going in the United States, particularly, traditional education like an MBA degree, and then talk a little bit about what we know is happening in the world of certifications, because certifications are becoming more and more valuable. And I think we all have an individual story about that, or a personal story of education and certification and how our own journey went. So I'll just kick it off with that and see what you guys have to say. Anybody want to tell their own story or have any sort of caveat on that?
No, I think it's a great segue, Tim. And I guess I'll step back. There's a lot of people looking for a magic silver bullet, and we gotta acknowledge the fact there is no magic anything that if I get this, I'm guaranteed employment. Right.
Yeah, that's good.
So for the job seeker out there, for the veteran in transition, you really need to understand that there's no magic wand that says, if I get this, I'm guaranteed 6 figures. I'm guaranteed to become attractive, and now I get a date. Right. So if those of you listen to my Empowered Transition class know I talk about relationships and dating with jobs. Nothing guarantees that relationship of attractiveness, but it's really about, I think, setting conditions to be high value and low risk. And, for me personally, my journey into certification started with Lean Six Sigma, and then later on moved into PMP. But the first foray had nothing to do with a job. It had to do with learning skills, right? And back on active duty, there's a DoD directive that said everyone should be learning Lean Six Sigma. So I talked to my command and said, hey, can I go to this class? And going through it, I was blown away by how much industry through certs could teach you in a very quick amount of time, that I was immediately able to go back to my organization and provide value, right? Immediately able to go back and solve problems, supply chain disruptions, quality issues, maintenance issues and errors, cost overruns. And here was this 1 week class, 2 week class that gave me tools to go back and solve a problem. And then, through PMP, obviously you were my instructor, I did the same thing. It's like, now I'm able to go back as a planner and a staff officer and think bigger, think differently to solve real problems, which gave me tools to be effective and actually furthered my passion to want to get into the field of project management. And then in transition, now I had credibility. I had something to demonstrate performance, and I think the conversation that's not had yet is really the skills-based economy. Right. When you look at economy today, this word of skills-based economy comes up, and how many organizations aren't even looking for bachelor's degrees, how many don't really care about degrees. They want competence.
Here at PM-ProLearn, we hire people, right, obviously, and we're all three involved in the hiring process. And I can tell you and whoever's listening here that someone having a college degree is not anything that we necessarily look for. I mean, it's great that they have one, but that's not, we don't put in a job posting, you got to have this degree. And what we do requires a lot of intelligence. And, from our employees, we have instructors that have to get in front of people and teach. And so we have determined that the college degree is not a huge weight factor in hiring people that are come to the table with a lot of skills and a lot of ability and a lot of intelligence to be able to get in front of students and teach them what they need to know, in our various training. So just from a small company with 33 employees, degrees aren't a big factor in our hiring. They're sure they're great, but it's not what we go look for. But now if you have a certification, like if you have the PMP, that's big for us because we want to hire somebody that has that certification that can come in and do that type of work. So to just here in our own little microcosm, this little small company, it definitely rings true that certifications are way more important than a college degree when we look at hiring someone here, right?
No, it's a great point, Tim. And to finish my transition story, the first job I got didn't really care about either. They were hiring veterans, honestly. So their silver bullet was must be veteran. And so I got hired, but then on the job site, I was working my first major construction project at a nuclear power plant. And the customer wanted to talk to me and not my boss. Now, my boss was a 40-year engineer project manager, like super senior, super well known. And I'm like, why aren't you talking to him instead of me? Like I thought I asked the guy that it was my colleague. He's like, well, you're a PMP and we're a PMP and he's not. I was like, again, why? Like, the 5 why. Why does that matter? And essentially it came down to you speak our doctrine, right? You speak our language, you use our process. It's easier to communicate, plan, and execute with you because we shared a known understanding, right? We use the same terms in the same way. And that's where it really kind of opened my eyes that as a civilian, like on the outside, certs did carry weight. They did have value, and I had more value than I thought I did, right? Which goes to the intrinsic value. I think some of the other things about confidence and other ways to articulate what you do to a customer. So if you're looking to change or upskill, certs taught me language. They taught me concepts. They taught me processes. They taught me ways to interact and communicate so that in the interview, I'm able to hold that professional conversation rather than just, I'm trying to be something.
Yeah, I want to jump on the back of that. I mean, the reality too is that, if you're trying to upskill, if you're trying to advance, if you're trying to maybe find yourself more attractive for another job, even internal to the same company, right? And that was kind of my experience, right? I got a job as a project manager right out of the Marine Corps. Well, not right out of the Marine Corps, but relatively right after the Marine Corps. And the PMP wasn't required. A college education wasn't required. Like it was just essentially, can you do these things? And, just purely through knowledge of systems and things like that, I was able to basically make myself attractive to the hiring manager. But once I got there, I recognized very, very quickly if I wanted to continue to move forward, if I wanted to go any further in the organization, or if I wanted other jobs further up the ladder that I was looking at, that the PMP was going to be required, right? And I think you'll find that in a lot of organizations, it's a similar concept. The other benefit is an advanced degree like an MBA or a master's in project management or something like that. They have their weight, they have their value, right? But in my experience, particularly, that was not as important to my organization as the ability to, show that I understood project management at a pretty deep level. And I'm not getting that from a 2-year master's degree. Well, I could, but it would be much, much faster. As a matter of fact, I believe it was 27 days from the time I finished Tim's class to me, calling him to tell him on my way home, hey, I'm certified. Like, yay me.
So that's a really cool point. It's a 27 days right now. That I will say that's faster than the average person that goes to get their PMP. But if you apply yourself, you can do it that fast. You can literally sit in a PMP class and 27 days later say I are a PMP because you got you pass that exam and you got those 3 letters, and all of a sudden it speaks a different story to the hiring manager, right? It says something totally different. They understand, I know what that value brings. But I wanted to ask you real quick, we're talking about we're throwing out this idea of an advanced degree like an MBA and comparing it to the value of a certification like the PMP. You actually have an MBA degree, right? And I have an MBA degree. So we're guys that are talking about this value of a certification and an advanced degree. We're not bashing the degree because we have one and thought enough of it to go get it. But Ian, how long did it take you to get your MBA degree?
2 years.
27 days?
No, it's definitely not 27 days. It was 2 years, and it was exceptionally rigorous, right? I think that's another piece of it too, is in addition to the time, and let's be honest, the cost, right? I went to a relatively impressive university, and You
You
don't
went
get
to Rice. That's okay. I'll brag about you. You went to Rice. It's cool.
you don't go to a university like that and pay peanuts, right? So in addition to the time, and there's the cost aspect of things, but the reality is the focus is different, right? So PMP, especially nowadays, is trying to get you prepared for serving an industry in project management roles, whether it be predictive, agile, or hybrid, right? And that's a whole other show all in itself. But the MBA degree is not focused in on project management. It's focused in on how you navigate in the business. So if you have both, as you mentioned, Tim, like I thought enough of it to go get it because I realized if I have that, I can navigate the business side. And if I have the PMP, I can navigate the project side. And if I can marry the two together, amazingly enough, my projects will meet business goals, which is the goal of every business out there.
Mm-hmm.
Add value and
Yes.
profitability. You know, you have a thought on that? There's been this interesting debate on LinkedIn about PMP versus MBA and which one's better than the other one. And I think it's a stupid conversation, honestly. One, the cool thing, there are universities out there, like American Military University actually gives you 6 master's credits if you have a PMP. So literally someone contacted me, how do I get a PMP? Because that takes 2 classes out of my mix and I can get it in a matter of a week. So, I think education overall has so much value, right? To invest in yourself. Now, for the veteran community, we're used to education being forced down our throat in our career. Now, on the civilian side, good luck having a company tell you what class you're supposed to go to. They put it all on the individual. And that's where I think, one, cert training is much faster and much cheaper, Ian, to your point, than a college degree. And there's a lot of companies out there that have benefits that'll pay for it, right? I know Booz Allen, just to give them a shout out, is a great company. That's up like 10 grand a year for 5-year employees for education, including certs, right? Because there's a massive immediate return. And with that education comes capability. But sometimes, and this is maybe a weird plug for cert training, is it shows you what you don't want sometimes. And we've had people go through our course and say, well, that was a great course, only to show me that I don't want to be a project manager. I want to do a different role in business. In fact, one of our students is now at a financial tech company, working in sales. He's like, the PMP was great. It taught me a lot about business, but it showed me I didn't want that role. I wanted to work next to that role. I wanted to work around projects, so I think education comes in many forms, and cert classes are a great way to get educated quickly.
Yeah. Well, to that point, I mean, going to college is the same thing. You sit in a college class and or get in a degree track and say, hey, I want to go for a business degree, or I want to go for a science degree or whatever, and you can get halfway into that thing and realize, man, this isn't what I want to do at all. But the difference is you do that in a degree track, and you're in a lot deeper as far as time investment and money investment and all that sort of thing before you kind of realize maybe this isn't the direction I want to go. With going for a certification, you can literally figure that out in a much shorter period of time. Say, let me go take a PMP course and see if this project management thing is really the direction I want for my life to go. And it's a 5-day class. And at the end of it, you're like, this sounds really interesting. I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna take the exam. I'm gonna really shore up my my resume with project management stuff. And you can figure to go that way, or figure this is just not who I want to be. But it's a much quicker thing. And the same thing for the spending of the money. If you go for a certification, I mean, how much does it cost to get an MBA degree as opposed to getting a PMP certification? I mean, obviously it's way, way cheaper to get a certification. So we're talking about bang for your buck, right? That they both have value, but which one has the faster and the bigger bang for your career, track, your career enhancement? I mean, I think in my personal experience and the experience that we've seen of thousands and thousands of students that have come through PM-ProLearn is that certification has got that much faster and bigger bang for your buck, right? And Ian, real quick, how did you pay for your MBA degree? Was that out of pocket? Was that GI Bill, or what did you use there?
I chose a yellow ribbon school, which means that they plus up from the GI Bill. So I used my post 9/11 GI Bill, and use that to complete my MBA degree.
Right on. And so that's what I thought. And the reason I asked you that, because leading into this, how much of your GI Bill benefits did that take to get that MBA degree?
So, by the time I got to my MBA, because I'd used it for undergraduate stuff as well to finish,
right.
By the time I finished it, it took 20 months and like 11 days, I think, of my total post 9/11 GI Bill.
Okay. All right. So almost 24 months of your GI Bill. and then of eligibility, right, to get that MBA degree. And then we have recently, within the last couple of years, gotten approved, PM-ProLearn has by the VA to use for veterans to use their GI Bill to get a PMP training and PMP certification. Josh, I'll let you speak to that. How much of your benefits would a veteran have to invest in getting a PMP certification?
Right. So, I think it's a great discussion more beyond even the fact that the VA has learned in a skills-based economy that education isn't just college anymore either. Mm-hmm. Right. So, college is a means, but through the VA, much like the credentialing programs, you can now use your GI Bill to pay for certifications. And even beyond PMP, it covers
that's awesome.
Our PMP, it covers CAPM, and it covers our PMI Agile Certified Practitioner. And soon, hopefully, to also be our Lean Six Sigma, which application is going in, if you both didn't know. So hopefully in about a month or two, we're going to have Lean Six Sigma on the list as well. And adjacent to that, because we're approved for Chapter 33, we are also approved for Chapter 35, which covers the children and spouses of disabled veterans. And we're also approved for vocational rehabilitation. I want to highlight this because the problem is that the counselors don't even know the benefit exists, right? It actually took me petitioning to the head of the VA, I don't know how many times on email to actually get them to add this to their own website. So now it actually calls out that it will pay for cert prep courses, but the Weems database to find the schools is actually a hidden website. You have to Google search Weems credentialing to even find the programs that are authorized to pay for cert. Although it's approved, the messaging has been horribly done to let veterans know that you can use it. And so to the point, you can pay up to $2,000 per class as many times as you want. And that equates to about 3.5 weeks of your GI Bill, right? So for less than a month, it's cert prep and an exam.
So I'm hearing it's an awesome benefit covered by the VA certification training, but like many other veteran benefits, it's difficult to navigate, right? Difficult to navigate your benefit.
It is.
We wish it wasn't that way. But.
Nope. And our team through this, like on the VRNE side, we've got representatives now at the national level who are actually building a first ever process guide to help VRNE counselors understand how to approve non-college programs.
Now you're talking about PM-ProLearn.
PM-ProLearn
team members that are helping veterans navigate this.
No, the actual VA. So through our advocacy, we were put in touch with a national rep under the VOC Rehab program, and they are internally building out a process guide to help their counselors.
Awesome.
We've had so many states tell us you're not approved, only for me to show them a letter from the national program that says, yes, we are. And look, it's like two kids bickering. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No. It's like, can somebody please slap the table on this? And so they're working to build a process guide to help those counselors.
I think it's important too to talk about. I mean, so universities have the same thing because students find the GI Bill, students attending universities find the GI Bill relatively cumbersome to work with as well. And so oftentimes you go to a university that accepts GI Bill benefits, which I think is pretty much all of them now, and they have some sort of veteran services department or representative that'll help you work with the VA to bill. And because of the struggles that we've had with getting the VA even to fully accept its own policy changes from 1.5 years or 2 years ago, we have done something very similar where we have kind of built out the process and then make it much easier on the student. And it's a very, anybody who's a veteran has dealt with the VA before and knows that it can sometimes be a mind-numbingly painful process. At least I know I have for sure. Right.
Oh, yeah. But the benefit is there.
But it's there.
The GI Bill will cover some certification training. We can't get into the whole list of what it will cover, but here in PM-ProLearn, it will cover the PMP certification training exam and ACP, right? So what are those certifications again? Through that, I'll let you guys talk real quickly.
All right. So the 3 certs that are approved are the Certified Associates in Project Management, the Project Management Professional, and the PMI Agile Certified Practitioner. They all are covered fully by the GI Bill. And on the advocacy side, our reps are actually able to upload documents on behalf of the veteran now into the new platform that the VA created. And we're hearing that turnaround's about 2 weeks, right? So from the time documents are submitted, the veterans are getting paid back in about 2 weeks. And that is one unique part of this. It's a reimbursement program for cert prep, not college. But we've created the deferred payment program. So it's only $100. You get fully reimbursed by the VA, and then you actually pay for the class. So we've done what we can on our end to make it very affordable For the veterans, again, they're paid back in about 2 weeks. So it's, $100 deposit fully paid in 2 weeks. And then you just fill in the rest after you get paid. So there's low risk to the individual as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. So basically, somebody's interested in using their GI Bill just less than 1 month to get that big bang for their buck, as opposed to a degree that's going to take several years of your GI Bill. They can just come to us, and we've got people that are trained and knowledgeable about how to navigate that VA benefit process and system. Yeah,
100%. And the exams come with it, right?
So they can do a portion of it for them, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah, we do a lot of the work on our end. We call them client advisors. The people that work on my team are there to help assist our students, much like a veteran service counselor at a college, to make sure they know what cert to go after, how to get enrolled, and how to do the paperwork. With that on the CAPM, we don't talk a lot about these certified associates in project management, but if you're 100% disabled and you have Chapter 35 benefits for your kids, it'd be a great opportunity for your kids going through college to possibly earn a CAPM certification to start their career pathway if they want it as a complement to a bachelor's degree or other schooling that they have too. So again, if you are 100% disabled, your kids do have Chapter 35 educational benefits, and that can also be used for cert prep, even beyond us, right? So just don't forget that benefit if you're out there and you're 100% disabled.
Yeah, good deal. So CAPM is, you mentioned it for like dependents or whatever. It's a kind of a starter certification. Doesn't require any past work experience in order to get that. So that's incredible. The VA is even funding all that, but that's good stuff. And so, yeah, I want to tell two quick stories about the value of the certifications. And in my world, PMP is what, has gotten me to where I am today. And so two quick stories. So my own story, so you can think about the value of certifications and degrees. When I retired from the Marine Corps, I actually had an MBA degree. And so I got out and I had used tuition assistance on active duty to get that. So I walked out with an advanced degree as an enlisted guy. And I got some jobs, but the MBA didn't really seem to be the big boost that I thought it would be. People were more interested in what my experience was as a Marine. And that's what actually got my first kind of major job was Marine Corps experience that a company needed because they had a contract with the Marine Corps, and it was a DoD contractor. So I got a job with a DoD contractor based on my Marine Corps experience that they needed to leverage in their contract. So I got there, and anyway, the company said, "Hey, get your PMP, and you can get in our career track for project managers, right? And it won't just be leaning on your military experience for your job career." So I did that. I went and got the PMP, did some training, a lot of self-study. Back in the day when I did that in 2011, there weren't all that many resources out there. But I went and got the PMP, and then my project manager career kind of started to take shape. And long story short, that company that I was at was a software company and was doing building custom software for the Department of Defense. And contractors are sometimes doing great and sometimes not. As the contracting world is up and down. You win a contract, you lose a contract, and I ended up having to leave the company to continue my career. So I put in an application at the Food and Drug Administration, and when I did this, it was at the Food and Drug Administration Center for Veterinary Medicine, Office of New Animal Drug Evaluation. That big long kind of title was where this job was at, and I thought, man, they're not going to hire me. I mean, I'm a retired U.S. Marine who worked on airplanes, and what experience do I have that's going to work at the Office of New Animal Drug Evaluation at the Food and Drug Administration? So I put the application in because I met their requirements that I read. But I thought I was going to be the token veteran that they had to interview, for some hiring quota, in my mindset. But anyway, I went for the job and I got hired. And so, I won't go into the details of the interview and all that stuff, but the interview was very skills based, right? They weren't super concerned about my MBA knowledge. They were looking for, hey, do you have the skill sets to come in here and manage our projects? And oh, by the way, my PMP told them that story at the beginning. I mean, that's why they were even interested in me, because I had that certification and they were looking for someone that had that skill set. So the PMP opened that door. I was able to speak to it in the job interview that I do actually have these skills and know what I'm talking about. I got the job. So all of a sudden, here's a retired Marine fixing airplanes who is working at the Food and Drug Administration, helping manage projects where pharmaceutical companies are trying to get drugs approved through the government process. What did I know about any of that? I didn't know anything there. I didn't know anything about, veterinary medicine or pharmaceuticals. I mean, it was a total fish out of water experience. I didn't have a clue about that world, but they hired me because I had that PMP, and I was able to get in there and actually do that job because they had a role that was aligned to needing that project management skill set, that PMP. And it wasn't that I needed to know all about pharmaceuticals and animal medicine, although I learned a lot about it when I was there, helped me do the job. But that certification got me into that job that nobody could understand how in the world a retired Marine fiction airplanes would have got there. And I didn't either. And that is literally the catalyst for how this company, PM-ProLearn, started, because people started asking me questions about how did you do that? And I started telling them the story, and they're like, well, can you help me get my PMP? And I said, sure, I can help you. And that turned into the training company that you see here at PM-ProLearn, helping people get certified so they could, get cool job opportunities like happened to me. So it was kind of amazing there. And so that's my own personal story of the value of certifications over, a college degree and MBA, because the PMP is really what put me there. So I got one other little story I'll tell, but I wanted to throw that out for your comment.
No, so one, I actually just talked to one of my college classmates who's looking to hire a project manager. He works for a university healthcare system right now at Johns Hopkins. And he's like, hey, we're trying to find this strategic project manager and a senior strategic project manager. I was like, those sound like cool title. And the support is financials. And he's like, I don't have a background in financials, but I'm now the PMO lead to build this project management group. He's looking for some vets. And, I find it interesting, kind of to your story, that a lot of times, and this is a miss, I think, in organizations when they're hiring a project manager, like, you need to have experience doing our work. Management isn't about being the expert in the work. It's about being an expert in leading teams to solve the problem. It kind of validated, he's like, I don't have a financial background. I'm a Navy guy. And now I'm the head of a PMO and I'm doing great things. Why? Because you have people that are the experts in the doing. You as a project manager need to be the expert in project management. It's stakeholder management, it's deliverables, it's timelines, it's scheduling, it's getting people to do things on time and get stuff done. Which, for the veteran, kind of go back to that story, why I think project manager is a great career, but why the cert is so important too, is because everything we've ever done in the military is project work. Honestly, a lot of spouses, everything you've ever done from a PCS move to setting up, events and supporting the commands, there are projects. Volunteer work at a church is projects. So learning projects helps you understand how to integrate into business, to me. And I do think a lot of hiring managers have a miss for like, oh, I want a project manager in cyber, but I need you to be a pen tester and a coder. It's like, if I'm the project manager and I'm doing penetration testing, I'm not being a project manager. So, I think it's a great way to upskill. I think, if you're a hiring manager and you're hiring a PM, find someone who's really good at the project side, not necessarily the doing side. And then last thought I just had is, you hear this word agile. We're talking about project management. We haven't talked about agile, but I see a lot of companies now trying to become agile. I hear the word, we're doing agile X, we're doing agile acquisition, we're doing agile procurement, we're doing agile development. I'm going to throw this to Ian for a little bit, but when you hear the word, we're doing agile, what does that mean? And is cert training at an organizational level a way to affect change? I think on that end, and the power of certification training as an organization, what is that value?
Yeah, I think that could probably be like a 7-part series, to be honest.
Right. That's a big topic.
Yeah,
that's fine. We'll go on a different
one. The reality is when someone says we are doing agile, it's like sandpaper on my brain, because you don't do agile, right? You just don't, right? You might do some sort of agile methodology, but you can only do agile if you first understand how to be agile, right? And that means understanding the principles of agility, right? So you can apply agility to anything. You can apply it to, a construction project, even though most people are like, oh no, construction projects are linear. Yes, they are, but stakeholder management's not. Right. Coming back to, it's not unlike most people think agile to think software, right? Which is not where it's only at, but it's definitely where it has its roots, right? Well, it's built on like build a core product, then build on, right? And you can use those same principles for virtually anything, right? Agile focuses on value delivery for the customer, satisfying the customer, putting the customer's needs first, continuous feedback loops, continuous improvement, right? All of those concepts can be brought into any type of project whatsoever. And so, when you think about it, the beautiful part about the PMP, for instance, right, is, even the Project Management Institute recognized that, hey, there's agility everywhere. There's opportunities for agility everywhere, right? And so they push that more into the PMP certification than it had ever been done in the past, right? And I don't want to lose sight of your question, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to kind of answer a slightly different question because, like I said, I think that your real question could be like a 7 or 8 part series on organizational agility, right? But a project manager who understands the tenets of agile, a project manager who understands continuous improvement, a project manager who understands even linear project management can go to any environment, any organization, and effectively run a project, right? Do you want them to have some sort of requisite knowledge in industry? Absolutely, but it's not. That's an eventual desire, right? When I'm looking for a project manager, what I'm looking for is someone who can take my goal and turn it into a reality in line with the business goal that we're trying to accomplish. You do not have to be an expert in, as Tim said, veterinary medicine, pharmaceuticals, or anything else like that. You just have to know how to carry a team from intent to completion, right? And so I think, at the end of the day, that's really the true value is advanced degrees, even baccalaureate degrees, right? They're focused on teaching people how to critically think inside of certain scenarios and then giving them enough knowledge to navigate a general environment. That's not what certifications are about. Certifications are about proving technical expertise and acumen in a specific area, right? And for someone to go get a project management certification or an HR certification or a cybersecurity certification, it shows excellence in a specific craft, right? It just so happens the project management craft can be applied anywhere.
It does.
That's right. So,
point, I guess, in leading that, and I'll let Tim tell the story, is that organizations can invest in training for their people in a faster sense to give them tools to go back and change culture, to give them tools to go back and be effective in their roles and their jobs, right? So you talk about earning the cert, but I think the training alone through certs can also give your team new capabilities that they otherwise wouldn't have had at a much faster, much lower cost. Right.
100%. I mean, look at we had a previous customer that we worked on, and the struggle they had was not with the project management team, right? The struggle was with the people who were working with the project management team, not understanding why they were asking for specific products or risk management or things like that, right? So you go in, you train that team, whether that team ends up certified or not, a team now has an understanding of this is why the project manager is asking for it. So in my opinion, it's not necessarily they can train their team or upskill their team. They should, because once everybody understands the pathway to success, even if they don't understand the granular detail, because that's the project manager's job, but once they understand what it is they're supporting, it becomes even more powerful. So sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Well, I just wanted to bring us back to the topic of the value of certifications and college degree. And in the world of Agile, it's similar. You guys got off talking about Agile and organizations and stuff, but that's another area of certification. We're talking about the PMP, and you have the ACP, the Agile Certified Practitioner, which the GI Bill also covers with less than a month of your benefit. That's another area that you can look at to get certified in. And I don't know if there are college degrees out there about Agile. I don't even know if there actually are anything out there, or how the value that would be. But
I'd be curious on like a master's in project management. And this is what one of the other. So world according to Josh, right? Advice according to Josh: don't double stack a degree, right? I've had so many people come in. I'm getting a master's in project management and I want to get in PMP. Don't do that, right? You're essentially saying I've got the same skill set twice. My thought would be go pursue a degree in business writ large if you want to get an MBA and a PMP.
Ian talked about his own reasoning for doing that.
Correct. But
that's good.
There's a lot of, especially the veteran world, I've mentored and coached a few through their master's program, specifically in project management, because they needed a project manager mentor. So they'll reach out on LinkedIn and I'll coach them. But then it's like, wait, and I could have learned all that in one class through a PMP, and then I could have added skill sets I don't already have. Right. So again, getting a class in business analytics or getting a class in marketing, or taking courses that colleges can teach you that certs don't. To that point, right? College classes are great to learn things that a certification class won't teach you. Don't take a college course where a cert class could have taught it to you faster. And I don't know there's any agile training in degree programs.
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? Because you guys know I'm I'm not a walking Google, but I love me some Google. Even more, I like AI to simplify the Google search results for me. So I typed it in. Tim asked, and I typed it in, and I said I literally just typed in degrees in Agile. And it come back and it says, project management degree can help you learn how to manage projects efficiently in an Agile environment and prepare you for roles like Agile coach. It says business administration can help you understand organizational structure and change management, which is important for scaled Agile framework environments. And then communications, communications degree can help you communicate effectively, which is important for all project managers, but particularly Agile project managers. But then what's interesting is that's three quick blurb paragraphs, right? Where it says degrees and boom. And then there is literally a half a page of AI compiled results with all the different Agile certifications that exist out there, right? And so when you think about that, that alone should tell you that, as you said, Josh, stacking it may not be necessary, right? Like, why chase a degree for it when I can go get an Agile certification so much faster and learn all of the same skills in that environment?
Well, I think those results also speak to the point that, in that field, or that kind of discipline of Agile, if you're going to work in the field where Agile practices are in play and you need to be able to do them, college degree is not going to get you there. It's going to be a certification that's going to train you how to work in this Agile environment and allow you to go in and lead people in those environments. It's certification, training track, as opposed to the college training track, is the only way that you're really going to get there in the world of Agile. Yeah. So, but last story, and then I'll, we probably need to wrap up this topic, but get some more comments. So, several years ago, this is back before I started PM-ProLearn, but I was doing some training, PMP training, individually before I started the company. And I had two guys that were in a class. They both took the PMP training from me in the same exact class. These were two active duty U.S. Marines. One of them was an enlisted guy. He was a master sergeant. The other one was an officer. I can't remember what his rank was. But at any rate, the master sergeant in the Marine Corps, at the time they took the class, they worked together. And this master sergeant literally worked for that officer. Had to salute him, say, yes, sir, no, sir, I'll follow your orders, sir, that type of thing. And so that was the relationship of these two guys sitting in my PMP class. They both took the PMP class, and after the training, the master sergeant got on it. He went and did, his study, after class study. He took the exam and he passed. The officer did not follow through. And he didn't go take the exam, right? Which we see that a lot. People take training and they never take the exam. And this is a guy that happened to. So they both were coming up on retirement about that same time. An enlisted guy got his PMP, officer did not. Now, typically, I don't know what college degree this guy had, but typically we think of officers as having some college, behind them. But I don't know what his situation was. But they both put in job applications for various things. Very uniquely, they both applied for the same exact job as a project manager at a local government contractor near Camp Lejeune. They both put in this job application for the same job. Who do you think got the job? Well, it was the master sergeant who had the PMP. He got hired, and the officer did not. And they had both applied for the same doggone thing. So obviously, I'm thinking the PMP was the thing that set that apart there. It definitely leveled the playing field, because I know the master sergeant didn't have any college. He did not have a college degree, but he did have a PMP, and he got hired over that officer. So that's the first interesting thing there. Well, 6 months or so later, the officer's still looking for a job. The master sergeant had gotten hired on as his project manager. Now he was doing the project, and he, as many project managers find themselves, you're actually the hiring manager or deep in the weeds of the hiring process, building your team. And he was actually doing job interviews for team members. And guess who applied for one of the jobs he had out there? This officer. And so this officer applied for a job to work on this master sergeant's project team, and he got hired. The master sergeant hired his former officer to work on his project team. And now, here, guess who's working for who? The officer is now working for that master sergeant, and their roles had completely flip-flopped. And, now who's issuing the orders? It's not like, the military where you issue orders, but a project manager is definitely saying, hey, here's what needs to be done, and here's what I need you to accomplish as a team member here in order to get these goals. And so I mean, here's the master sergeant, directing the officer what to do, probably writing his performance evaluations for the company, and completely flip-flop. Now, how did that happen? It was that certification. It was not the college degree that did that. So that's one of the experiences that's really ingrained in my brain. It really just shows a real world example that I was personally involved in training both of these gentlemen and how it turned out, right? It was such a game changer to get that PMP. And I followed up and stayed in touch with both of them for a long time. And guess who went and finished and got his PMP? That officer. He's now a PMP. So they both actually moved on since then. And the officer's now project manager, in his own right, some other organization. But he realized, hey, after this is my own personal experience, he told me, he said, yeah, man, I should have gone and got that, taken the exam. And when he did, his career opened up, and now again, he's doing his own project manager roles. But it's a game changer. I mean, and it was in that situation. That's a totally true story.
The undertone of that story that I want to bring to the surface, because what I heard there, among many other things, I really hope that it was an open and communicative relationship while they were in, so that it wasn't an abusive one when they were done. Right. But I think the thing that I pick up the most in that is, this officer left the Marine Corps, and he had all of the same skills, right? The leadership, the ability that can, move
That's
to
right.
and so on and so forth. But the master sergeant had the certification that to the civilian sector tangibly proved it, right? And think about there's two pieces of that story that you could go after. And I think the one I would like to bring forward is think about the lost earning potential of that young officer when he got out, and how much longer he had to wait for his career to take off and to be what he wanted it to be, how much more he earned, lifetime wise, if he had just gone, from cradle to grave on getting that certification. Not saying that the master sergeant wouldn't have interviewed better and the situation would, but he would have had the same hope for that company or other companies if he'd have just got those three letters behind his name to create that earning potential for himself.
Yeah, that's right. That's a really great point. And just to follow up on, everybody's attention in the story, these guys were great friends. So they were great friends in the Marine Corps, even though one was an officer and the other one guy worked for him. They had a good personal relationship, very mature, emotionally intelligent guys. And the officer laughed about it. When I heard what had happened, he was laughing about it, saying, "Yeah, that's what I get. I deserve it." My buddy, the master sergeant, he's great to work for. So they had a great relationship, and it wasn't an adversarial conflict thing at all. They were good buddies and, laughed about it, but it was a true story. It actually happened.
So there's a couple of pieces actually, as the only officer in the room at the moment.
That's right.
I think we want to, to call it and highlight. One is that certs really do matter, especially in the veteran space when you're getting out. We've had a few of our students, one actually just got hired on with Central Health in Texas just because of the class, right? He was a reservist, healthcare administrator, civilian, Army reservist, didn't want to go back into administration. So he got his PMP training with us and then got hired on as a business analyst project manager for healthcare. Again, he had the awareness of the industry, didn't speak the language, got the class. Now he could translate his military to civilian. And just because he could speak that language, he was able to get hired as a PM. Right? Second thing, just for the veterans in transition, your ranks, badges, tabs, and medals don't mean shit, right? And I'm going to bundle by that. To the civilian world, you're a veteran. And that doesn't translate. And I think officers, especially being the officer in the room, walk out thinking, look how great I am. I've got this degree. I've been through, commanding general staff college. I got warfare training and degrees that nobody cares, right? Nobody cares because it doesn't translate. It doesn't correlate to anything. So invest in yourself. Don't just take what the military gives you and think you're going to walk out and walk right into a high paying civilian job. You have to create your own civilian occupational specialty. Your skills, right? So you need to invest in yourself and ideally invest before you need it, right? And this goes to civilian or military. Corrective maintenance is after something breaks, and it's usually a lot more expensive when it breaks. Invest in yourself while there's time and you have the opportunity and some runway and bandwidth to set conditions for success later on. And lastly, I'm just looking to finish this out, maybe round it up. Just if you go down a list of intangible values or values of degrees versus certs, often way more affordable, okay, to show impact. They show demonstrated performance. They don't show something you learned years ago, right? I've heard that debate too. I went through college back in 2005. I have not been re-educated on anything I learned since 2005 in that degree.
That's right.
Certs have to be maintained. So as a current PMP holder, I'm showing a professional that I am maintaining relevance as a professional. Now, veterans out there, I hear this a lot. Go for the one that's a lifetime guarantee, never have to do anything with it because it's easier. Nobody cares, right? I don't want a doctor who got licensed 20 years ago to not have to go back to school. So certs show continued relevance because you have to maintain currency in that discipline. All right. So they're faster to get, they're cheaper to get, they demonstrate and show competence in the field. And then the intangibles, especially for those going in interviews, if you're looking at career changes, right? You get to claim the professional identity of your cert. So when I was in transition interviewing to be a project manager, I got to say, because I am a project manager, I'm not trying to become something. I got to claim the title of my certification. So when they say, you know, why should I consider you as a project manager? Because I'm a certified professional with 10 years of experience. That's why you should consider me as a project manager for your organization. I wasn't trying to become something, right? And that confidence in the interview was huge for me because I had the backing of a governing body that said, you've made it. You've proven competence
in
this area. So for the veteran, that confidence in the interview, learning industry terminology, showing up, wearing the patches and tabs of industry like a professional, right? So whether you're a veteran or just looking at a career change, certs are a great, great investment to upskill, help you stand out, but then truly teach you new skills.
So to jump on the back of it, Tim, what year did you graduate with your MBA?
I was gonna mention that my MBA degree, 2007.
2007, and I finished mine much more recently. We'll just say it that way. And I remember you seeing some of the work that I was doing on that, and you were like, "What the heck is that?" Right?
Exactly right. That goes to Josh's point about, you know, you get a degree. There's no like re-degree requirements, right? You don't have any continuing education, and literally. My degree from 2007, I looked at what you did in your MBA degree. I'm like, I didn't do that because, but we both have the same degree, right? I mean, it says MBA behind my name, same as yours, but literally we have a different knowledge base, right? Mine's kind of old and yours is much more relevant, but not so with the PMP though, right? If we're both PMP certified as well, but I have to maintain my certification by getting those, you know, those PDUs, professional development units, same as you do. So that's, you know, another big difference. We're both staying current in the field of project management because we have to if we're going to maintain that cert. So that's, you know, another big thing. Companies know that. So that was an awesome point that Josh brought out. And you know, companies are looking for what can you do for me, right? They're like Josh, you said, you know, about all your past training and badges and awards and all that sort of stuff and come thinking that you got all this value to add. That's great. But a hiring manager is going to sit down and say, okay, what can you do for our company? Right. And they have a very specific need in mind when they ask you that question in sort of a job interview. The job interview is all about what can you do for us if we hire you? That's what it's about. And if you can't clearly articulate to that hiring manager that you can do exactly what they need, you're not getting hired, right? And so that's a real problem for not just military folks, but anybody that's going on a job interview. You got to be able to clearly articulate that and impress that hiring manager that you are the round peg for the round hole, right? And certification helps you tremendously there. Because as soon as you have that certification, if they're looking for someone who has the skill set that certification requires and brands you as, they're going to be more interested in the fact that you will fit in their need because your certification fits the need. And the other great thing about certifications is that certifications work hard. The certification organizations like PMI, they work hard to make sure that their certifications stay aligned with current needs in industry. So that the PMP is not the same thing. I got my PMP in 2011, and you take the PMP exam now, and it looks completely different from what I tested in 2011. It's because they've changed the certification and the requirements in order to stay relevant with the needs of hiring managers and company needs out there. And so getting a certification is going to make sure that you are relevant and skillful for what organizations need today. And like the NBA, not so much, as you know, me and Ian's experience. So great conversation, I think, here, guys. And we've talked a lot. We'll probably need to wrap this up, but we've talked all about the sort of the value of both, degrees and certifications, and they're both valuable. But the certifications are bigger bang for your buck, much faster. And then we talked about how they bring relevant skill sets, current skill sets to hiring managers, as opposed to like degrees can grow stale and not be relevant to the current job need. And then the great thing about if you're a military veteran or even active duty, you can use your GI Bill to pay for a lot of certifications. And in our world of what PM-ProLearn looks at, two of our certifications, the PMP and the ACP, are covered by that GI Bill. So I think that's like the closing takeaways that I had here. Do you guys have anything else to throw out before we kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, just if you're a veteran, especially and you're interested in certifications, please reach out. If you're an industry professional interested in certifications, please reach out, right? We've got a lot of ways to get it funded for free. Even military spouses through the MyCAA program can get our training for free. And we do a free upgrade from CAPM to PMP and help you with that experience translation. So we're very unique in how we serve the military community. But on the organizational side too, if you are looking to upskill your workforce, if you have a pain point called training as a service, right? If you have a pain point of learning that you want to solve, let us help you solve it, because what we teach in project management really is everything in business, right? Change management, stakeholder management, communications, conflict resolution, team development, right? I taught a class on emotional intelligence to a construction company who was going through rapid growth and needed to understand the human side of change, right? So again, our passion as a company is to help individuals and organizations transform through learning, right? And achieve their goals. So if we can help you, please reach out. Shameless plug for us, but training at pm-prolearn.com. If you're listening, please just shoot us an email. We'd love to talk with you.
Yeah. Ian, what's your wrap up?
For me, I think, the big key takeaways, is kind of the theme that I've had with most of my comments throughout all this is just, flash to bang. How quickly can you get a certification, and how much does it pay off? Both in terms of, earning capability for you for your career, but also the types of jobs that you can get. Tim's story is a clear and clean example of that, right? And so when you think about that, and most people are thinking to themselves, because that's what they call themselves, how can I possibly go do this, or what's the most appropriate way to do this, or how can I not have to spend a ton of money? Because a bunch of people are going to try and self-study and things like that because they see the cheapness of that, right? But the reality is there's tons of mechanisms out there that you can use. If you're currently still in, there are different mechanisms like unit funding and cool funding. If you're in the GI Bill, and if you've already transitioned out and you're thinking, okay, what's next? There's the GI Bill. If you're already working for an organization, there is organizational funding with a payback generally associated with it, right? So I front the cost and then they pay me back when I'm done. There's all kinds of different ways to do this, right? But when you think about the cost of a advanced degree, like an MBA or something along those lines, versus the cost of a certification, no matter what it is, right? In general, you can get it faster, you can get it cheaper, and you can put it to use almost immediately. And as we kind of close this conversation with, it maintains relevance because there's a continuing education requirement that goes along with it. Do not cheat yourself, and just recognize that neither one is any better, but each one has its own specific value. And the certification is a completely different value statement than a standard education value statement.
Yep. All right. Great conversation, guys. And I think this is an awesome show segment, and packed a lot of different information in there. And like Ian said, we can spin off 7 or 8 episodes on different things that we talked about, Agile, and we can get deeper into the weeds on some of this stuff. And I look forward to doing that with you guys. It's been great. As always, you guys are professional, awesome guys to work with. And we've got a good dynamic in our conversations here, because each one of us has a different background and different experience, but they all kind of converge on, helping people achieve their goals through, sharing our experiences and our knowledge with other folks. That's what we hope this PM Pro Show does, is help people, because that's what we really have a heart to do, is just, put people first and see how we can help them achieve their goals, because we've been so blessed that, we've gotten to a point where we can turn around and help other people with this. And we're just glad to do it. So thanks for your time here today, guys, everybody watching and listening. We appreciate you as well, and wish you much success. God bless.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the PM-Pro Show. We appreciate you spending time with us, and we hope you're walking away with something valuable to apply in your own life. If you enjoyed this conversation, the best way to support us, completely free, is by subscribing and sharing. As a veteran-owned small business, every bit of support helps us continue bringing great content to you and others in the community. Thanks again for being here, and until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep making an impact.